This is the Undefeated podcast with your host, Keenan Tully. This is the place where we show that hearing loss is not going to be a barrier in your life. You can still chase all of your dreams no matter what. It hasn't stopped me. Don't let it stop you. Let's go.
Okay, so hey Robin, thank you for joining me today. How are you?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm good, thank you. Yeah, it's great to have you on. I've been wanting to get you on for a little while now, so it's good to finally talk to you.
Well, that's right. It took a while, but good things are worth waiting for, right?
Absolutely. So if you don't mind, could you please give the listeners kind of a overview on who you are and kind of what your story is?
Well, sure. I love telling my story. I began gradually, in the early 1980s, I noticed that I was missing hearing things at work. And it wasn't obvious, but, subtle. And it got to the point where one day I just decided, why don't I get my ears checked? Because it just seemed like, it's happening kind of frequently enough. So I went in to have my hearing tested, and sure enough, and actually I was pretty surprised, but the audiologist said I had loss in each ear enough that I really should start wearing hearing aids. So that kind of took me aback, but I said, okay, give me a little time to think about it. But so I made another appointment to go back and got bilateral hearing aids. And that was the start of a long journey of gradually losing more and more hearing over the years. For the most part, it was fairly equal, which was interesting too. But obviously, every so many years, I was losing some hearing and getting stronger and stronger hearing aids. Mm-hmm. So I kind of went through that process. I very much am a person that finds ways to problem solve and adapt. So awesome. As I ran across the challenge, I had to figure out ways to, whether it was talking on the phone or hearing in meetings. I was showing horses. I had to deal with all of that. So I had to keep figuring out solutions. And this is before, again, I said it was like the early 80s, before social media. So for the most part, I felt like I was pretty much, on my own.
Right.
With my audiologist trying to figure it out. So I'm trekking along, doing my usual things, working, showing horses, my usual activities. And then I woke up one morning and the right ear was gone. And it just, I don't know, it was just, didn't hear anything. And I figured it out because I was trying to blow dry my hair. And I couldn't hear the dryer on this side. Then it was weird. I switched it back and forth. And I was, kind of in shock. So I called my audiologist as soon as she opened. She said, come on in. I mean, she didn't even make an appointment. She said, come in, and tested me. She said, there's nothing there. So we both had a little cry. And then she said, because she knows me too, she said, you really need to look into getting a cochlear implant.
Wow. Yeah.
I said, okay, fine. So she gave me some references and I made an appointment, went in, had my assessment. It was clear I qualified. The surgeon comes in and said, do you want to get a cochlear implant? And he didn't have a real warm bedside manner and wasn't particularly warm and fuzzy, but I looked at him and I said, how fast can you do it? And so that,
Mm-hmm.
I just kept moving. So I got my first implant in 2010, wore a hearing aid in the
Okay.
other ear, and it started going further and further, so that when this ear got to the point that it met criteria for the implant, I got it done, and that was in 2012. So since that time, I've been, rocking
Wow.
and
Okay.
rolling with bilateral cochlear implants.
Yeah. Awesome. Awesome. I love it. So correct me if I'm wrong, but your grandmother had a hearing loss. Is that right?
Right. I'm glad you mentioned that because she really, I think, set the tone and the inspiration for me, because when I was growing up with her, she lost her hearing at age 12 from
Wow.
scarlet fever. So she grew, she didn't grow up hearing, but until 12 she could hear. Her parents
Yeah.
mainstreamed her. She did not sign. She read lips. She went to regular school, college, raised 3 children, one of
Wow.
whom was my dad. And so
Yep.
growing up around her, I was around a person who just, it just wasn't an issue for her. She played golf.
Right.
She rode horses. She played bridge. She loved dancing. She loved socializing, travel. There just was never, she never used the word no or I can't. And she was always a happy person. She didn't walk around feeling sorry for herself. She went about her life. And so I didn't know growing up I was going to lose my hearing at all. We were very close, and I made a point to always face her so she could read my lips. And I sometimes would over enunciate the words, and she'd say to me, "You don't have to do that," So when I started losing my hearing, and even through the rest of the time since, I've never, it just hasn't been on my radar to ever feel like I couldn't do something or wouldn't do something. I just figured out a way to get it done. And so I feel lucky that way, because that's all I knew about deafness, really, was you just get in there and, it doesn't hold you back. It doesn't make you any less of a person. So I feel grateful, so grateful for her.
One of my questions for you was going to be, how was your grandmother's influence on you growing up, and how did you kind of see hearing loss and the effect on someone's life? And I guess for you it was a positive influence, right?
Right. Yeah, very much so, because I didn't have any other deaf people that I knew.
Mm-hmm.
So I had no point of comparison other than her. And
Yeah.
I admired her growing up, even before I knew I'd lose my hearing. I mean, I didn't know she was going to be
Yeah.
a role model for me in that way at all. I had no idea. I just always thought it was cool. My grandmother was just a cool lady, and she happened to be deaf,
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah.
So.
Yeah. Awesome. What are some of the key kind of memories you have of her regarding hearing loss and being deaf? What are some of the happiest memories that they have of her?
I was sitting here thinking, it's not as much one of the positive ones, but I did at times get nervous when she was driving.
Okay.
Because she did have hearing aids, but if you can imagine back then, and they really only gave her a sense of very loud sound.
Hmm.
It wasn't like hearing aids of today. And so we'd be driving somewhere, and I always just kind of felt a little nervous. And when I got old enough that I could
Okay.
drive, I always tried to do that. I mean, nothing ever happened. There was never an accident or a near miss. But it's when you talk about memories,
Right.
I kind of think, yeah, it kind of made me nervous. I mean, there's just so many positive memories. She really influenced me into getting into riding horses. She used to ride
Yes.
horses and go hunting and jumping. And so when I was a child, she kind of said to my parents, why don't you start giving her riding lessons? So that was that was a mixed blessing, I think, in some ways, because I became so addicted to it. I never stopped. But so she really had a big influence on me in loving horses and riding. She had golden retrievers that were trained to get like obedience degrees, and so I fell in love with golden retrievers. I have one now. We have a rescue.
Hey, it's Keenan. I want to say a massive thank you to today's episode sponsor, Blue Moth Hearing. If you've never heard of Blue Moth Hearing, then Blue Moth Hearing are the world's first company to offer a hearing aid experience box that allows you to trial 3 of the top hearing tech from the comfort of your own home. Nothing like this has ever been done before. So if you're curious about hearing aids and you want to dip your toes in and see what life is like with hearing aids, give Blue Moth Hearing a go. I have a $50 off coupon code as well for the hearing aid experience box. I will leave that in the description in the show notes. Go and give Blue Moth Hearing a try. They are a truly amazing company. Thank you again to Blue Moth Hearing.
Oh, wow.
The most interesting thing was she loved to dance and party. And I would
Okay.
ask her, how was she able to dance and appreciate the music? And she somehow, developed the feel for it. And I think watching other
Okay.
people too, but she could dance like heck. And, even when she told me about, I still don't quite get how she did it, but that was pretty amazing.
That's amazing. So, how old were you when you got your first set of hearing aids?
I think I was 31.
31. Okay. So, what was the transition like from not wearing hearing aids for 30 years to wearing hearing aids? What was that? What was that like the first time that you ever put a set of hearing aids in? What did it do for you?
Well, it is a bit of a shock because my brain, I didn't realize how much I had not heard. And I was not profound at that time, but it's amazing all of a sudden when you put hearing aids on, how much noisier the world is. So I know for a while it was quite an adjustment. I would want to turn them down. At the end of the work day, I would get in my car and take them out and put them in the case. I mean, I just had to have a break. So, I mean, the biggest adjustment was the fact that, I had gotten comfortable with the level of hearing I had.
Right.
And so when you amplify that, it's a shock. So what I tried to do was ease myself in. I mean, I wore them at work. But like I said, I'd take them out, and then in the evening, I'd try to wear them to watch TV or go out with people or whatever. But like if we went to a restaurant, the minute I got in the car, I'd take them off. So, but unlike there's a lot of people that just, don't want to wear them or adjust to them. And I needed to do that. So I made myself do that. And so it got easier.
Yeah. I feel like that's probably what quite a lot of people do, is they'll put them in for the first time and then not really like how they sound, and then just stop wearing them. And I feel like if people just tried 10 minutes a day for the first week or something and try and ease into it, I feel like a lot more people would stick at it until they actually get used to it and actually see what it can do for your life. And yeah, that's a very, very important note that you just made there. Yeah, I love that. So let's talk about horse riding now. So my fiance has a horse. She's had her horse for 16 years. His name is Dewey. He's lovely. I must say, I'm totally comfortable strapping myself into a race car and driving over 100 miles an hour. But the first time that she got me on a horse, I was petrified. So I'd love to learn a bit about how you got into horse riding, and then also about your story with show jumping, and also winning a championship as well. That's awesome.
Like I said, my grandmother really influenced it, and I don't know if you're born with a gene for loving animals. I mean, I was adopting the neighborhood dogs, and I started riding horses when I was about 8, and that was it. I mean, there was nothing left for me the rest of my life that it wasn't going to be a part of my life. So they took me to a nearby riding stable to take riding lessons. And I could hear, I mean, I heard fine growing up, so hearing wasn't an issue. So I started riding, and then I think I was about 10 when I started showing, and kept that up until I went to college. And then my parents didn't want to support the horse anymore. But where I went to college, they had a riding club. And so I joined that. And then when I got out of college, I went to grad school, but I sort of scrounged the money together to buy a very young baby horse, because it's all I could afford at the time. So from then on in, I've had one. I mean, I just have figured out ways to do it. So I just kept having a horse and showing, and there really hasn't been a break.
Yeah, that's amazing. Do you still ride now?
I do, and actually I live on a little 5-acre farm, and so they're right out my window. I've got 2 horses that live here with me, and I ride them. And I did COVID. Of course, COVID interrupted most of everybody's life. I had just sold a show horse a few months before COVID and had not found a new one. And so, of course, there was all the lockdown and everything with COVID. So I was lucky that I had horses here, because I could get outside and ride them and kind of be as normal as possible. But I didn't want to get back into showing and being around people for a long time, until I felt it was safe. By that time, I kind of just decided that I really love having them here, and I've accomplished so much showing that I just decided I'd retire from showing. So pretty much the start of COVID got me thinking about changing, some goals in my life and trying to work on some other things with the horses. And then I just didn't feel I needed to compete anymore.
So how did you manage training and show jumping as well with wearing wearing cochlears. Like, how much of a challenge was that for you? And then also, how did you adapt to that as well?
Well, that was really the hardest part, is as my hearing got worse, even with the hearing aids, I had a hard time with the announcer, with the PA system. When I'd have my trainer work with me, I'd miss a lot. So, as I said, I always try to adapt. So it got to where when I was having a riding lesson, I'd always look and watch what they were saying, or they'd start using hand signals. In the horse shows, they can use hand signals. So I would go ask the management to make sure that they would, and when I was showing, they would make sure they gave hand signals. So I had to ride the horse, but kind of be watching what was going on, so I knew what to do next.
Oh, wow.
This is funny, and it's not. It wasn't so much at the time, but when you're done showing in a class, because you kind of show the way I show, you show together in a group, then you line up and they start calling out placings. Well, I couldn't understand what they were saying, so I'd have to have somebody on the rail telling me, did they call my number? Yeah. And I remember one time I just started leaving the arena because I thought I didn't place. And they're at the gate going, go back, you know. Or they call ringmasters. There's people out in the arena. I just, I had to figure out a way to ask somebody or the person next to me, let me know when they call my number. It's stuff like that I had to do.
Yeah.
And even practicing before a class is usually kind of crazy. So I would wear a walkie-talkie hanging on my belt, but sometimes I couldn't understand that, and so it was hard, but I wasn't going to stop doing it. You just figure out a way to do it.
I wanted to ask you, like, with it being as much of a challenge as it was, what kept you motivated to want to keep on competing? Like, did you ever get to a point where you just thought, this is too hard for me, or were you always thinking of finding a way to get through it and keep on competing?
Well, the latter. Like I said, I competed up until COVID, and it really had nothing to do with my hearing. How I decided to, my reasons were different, had nothing to do with hearing. That goes back to my grandmother, I think. She just never said I can't. And so I never had that in my vocabulary. I never once ever thought, oh my gosh, maybe I can't keep competing. I just, it's like, by God, I'm going to do it anyway. I'll figure out a way. And the year that I woke up, and this year was deaf, right, which was the end of 2009, I won Reserve National Championship. And
awesome.
It was
That's
like
amazing.
Yeah, and I probably had the best year I'd ever had, and I couldn't hear a thing.
Wow.
I went in there, so it's never been something I've ever considered to say I can't do something. It's just not part of who I am.
I love that. Yeah, your love for what you do far outweighs the challenges of having a hearing loss. So I love that, and that's what I try and tell people as well, is that, like, your hearing loss doesn't have to be a defining factor in your life. You can still go and achieve anything you want to. I mean, you're champion winning horse rider. I'm a race car driver. Like, you can do anything. Like, there's nothing that can stop you. So I love that. Are you able to wear your cochlear implants with your helmet that you wear? Because obviously we wear helmets, but
Right.
I'm not able to wear my hearing aids because I wear earbuds like this that allow me to speak to my crew. How is it with horse riding?
Well, actually, I haven't had any trouble. There are two different models of the external part, the sound processor. One model is called the off the ear, and it's a little, I don't have that one because that one sticks out farther and is not as secure as the ones that are more like a hearing aid. And so
Okay.
the only thing I had to do is I went into the store and tried on helmets that all were adjustable. And I looked at a size larger than normally I would wear. And then the one I bought actually has little pads that go under the rim so that I can adjust. What I do is I have a pad on each side of where the magnet part is, and I had to work with it a little bit in the front. I guess the shape of my head or something, but I just kind of kept working with it, taking it off, adjusting the padding, and putting it back on. And so I have no trouble with the helmet. I wear ball caps, my horse show hats. Again, I had to get a size like up and then put the little pads in, but I haven't had any trouble. Your helmet is you got a lot more helmet than I wear.
Yeah, it's I mean, yeah, we obviously safety is a massive thing in our sport. So yeah, our helmets are very good, very nice as well. So but I mean they kind of have to be. I mean we're racing at over 100 miles an hour, inches to a wall, so it's it can be pretty scary sometimes, but I love it, and I wouldn't be doing anything else. So yeah. Well, Robin, it's been amazing. You are a inspiration to everyone. What would be your message for anyone growing up today with a hearing loss, or even if they're deaf, who have some kind of concerns about chasing their dreams? And what would you kind of tell them to help them push and chase their dreams and show them that hearing loss doesn't have to be a barrier?
Well, that's one of the things when I first saw you out there, I connected with you because you're such an inspiration. And that's my message to everybody is try to avoid saying I can't. And instead say, what do I need to do? Or what can I learn or find out to do so that I can do this? It's finding a way. And nowadays, there's so much technology available and so many tools and ways to get things done that it really is a mindset of, I want to do this, and what is it going to take for me to get there? And that's what I encourage people to do, is find whatever you have to do to find the ways or way to get that done.
Yeah, absolutely. Yep. Yeah. Let your passion and love for what you want to do, drive you, and not worry about your hearing loss. I feel like a lot of people get told, by someone at some point in their life that they aren't able to do this because of their hearing aids. But that's not the case at all. It's a mindset. It's a mindset shift that you have to go through, and just realizing that you can do anything you want, and you're a great example of that. So, Robin, thank you very much for joining me today. It's been a pleasure.
Well, I've enjoyed it so much, and you take good care.
Thank you very much. Thank you.